Hello everyone, this is your host Rohan Tandel. Welcome to the podcast series of the book review published in InnoHealth magazine, the first magazine on healthcare innovation from India. Today we narrate the review on the book The 48 Laws of Power, written by Robert Greene. The review has been composed and narrated by Dr. Debleena Bhattacharya.
Hello everyone, myself Debleena. Today I am here to give you a summary of the book entitled The 48 Laws of Power. So thank you Rohan. So let's start. So this is an outstanding book that will remain classic for a longer time. Let's come to the introduction. So the 48 Laws of Power, it was first published in 1998. It became a classic and an international bestseller. It literally lists 48 advices on how a person can gain strong power. For each advice, the author used different stories of different people so that the reader can understand the principle. In this summary, we will learn about the first few laws. If the world is like a giant skimming coat and we are trapped inside it, there is no use in trying to opt out of the game. We may not notice it, but we encounter the struggle for power every day. It may be within our family, our work, or our community. In this world, it is inevitable for us to deal with power. That is why we must choose not to be powerless. It will only make us miserable. In fact, the better you are dealing with power, the better friend, lover, husband, wife, and person you become. Before having power over things or other people, you must first have power over your own emotions. You must learn not to react emotionally on anything that happens to you. Your emotions will only cloud your reasons. You will not think clearly and you will not choose the best decisions. It is hard to control the emotions, especially love and anger. You should not try to stop feeling them. You should only be careful on how you express your emotions because your enemies can use them against you. Now that you know the foundation, let's learn about the first law. So the first law of the 48 laws of power says, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use your enemies. Now let's go to a story. For 700 years after the end of Han Dynasty, China was covered in chaos. There is a constant struggle of power for the throne. Each new emperor was killed off. The army was always having a coup. The fight for power is marked with violence and vengeance. So the generals would kill an emperor and replace him with the strongest among them. So to ensure his power, the new emperor would kill all the others. However, in few years, he would also be killed. Younger generals would plot against him. They would assassinate him and his sons. So this pattern continued on and on and on. Whoever sits in the throne is always in danger. He has enemies everywhere. To be an emperor of China at that time is to be alone with no security and no real power. But the game changed when General Kyo Yong-in rose to power in 959 AD. He became Emperor Sung. So Emperor Sung is fully aware of this situation. Emperor Sung knows that he would be killed in next few years. So he thought of finally stopping this pattern. After being crowned, Emperor Sung invited all the generals of the army. He held a banquet to celebrate his new dynasty. When everyone has drunk a lot of wine, he ordered them to leave all the guards and only the generals will be staying there. So the generals thought that Emperor Sung would have them all killed. Instead, Emperor Sung said, the whole day is spent in fear and I am unhappy both at the table and in my bed. For which one of you does not dream of ascending the throne? So the generals, covered with fear, they claimed innocence and pledged loyalty to Emperor Sung. But the emperor knew better. Emperor Sung proclaimed, so the best way to pass one's day in its peaceful enjoyment of riches and honor, if you are willing to give up your commands, I am ready to provide you with the fine estates and beautiful dwellings. So the generals were surprised. that the emperor offered them wealth and security. They do not have to live in fear now. So the next morning, all the generals resigned their post. They accepted the retirement that Emperor Sung offered. They became nobles and masters of their states that emperor has given them. In just one move, Emperor Sung got them all rid of the people that might betray him. So Emperor Sung continued to unite his kingdom. Southern Han was in rebellion for years. It was led by King Liu. So when rebel leader surrendered, the emperor did not punish him. Instead, Emperor Sung gave King Liu a position in his imperial court. He also invited him to drink wine as a sign of friendship. Inside the palace, Emperor Sung offered King Liu the glass of wine. King Liu hesitated. He is afraid that the wine might be poisoned. Your subjects' crimes certainly merit death, but I beg your majesty to spare your subject's life. Indeed, I dare not to drink this wine. The emperor just laughed. He has no plans of poisoning King Liu. Emperor Sung took the wine and drank it himself. Starting from that day, King Liu became loyal to Emperor Sung. So the former rebel became the emperor's most trusted friend. So in this way, he converted an enemy to a friend. Emperor Sung offered generals with grand estates. They stopped being a threat to him. This is smarter than murdering them. Emperor Sung became free of any vengeance from the army. Indeed, Emperor Sung was able to stop the violence and civil war in China. The Sung dynasty reigned there for 3 centuries. A man suddenly spared the guillotine is a grateful man indeed, and will go to the end of the earth for the man who has pardoned him. When you turn your enemies into friends, they become your most faithful ally. They are the most reliable than the friends who surround you. Friends agree with you to avoid conflicts. They hide qualities that might offend you. You might not really know them well. They may be envious. When conflicts arise, your friendship may fade. Your enemies, on the other hand, are an untapped gold mine that you must learn to exploit. So this is what we learned from the first law. So let's come to the second law. The second law of 48 laws of power says, conceal your intentions. In this, we come to know about a story where a courtesan in 17th century France named as Ninon de Lenclos was there. Many great men, politicians, thinkers and writers have fallen in love with her. She became experienced in the art of love. Ninon understood that seduction is a game. It is a skill that could be practiced over the years. Her reputation became known as a very good person who can give the portray of how to love someone. So over the years, the rich families of France would make their sons come to her. She would instruct them in matters of the heart. Marcus de Sévigné was one of them. Marcus was only 22. He was rich and handsome, but he has no experience in love. At that time, Ninon was already 62 and very famous. She listened to the story of Marcus. There was a young and beautiful countess to whom he has fallen in love. But he was hopeless in pursuing her. He did many mistakes in trying to court her. First of all, Ninon made the Marcus understand that love is a war and he must plan every step. He must execute those plans carefully. Ninon instructed the ways to court that countess. So she gave the idea that Marcus, he must appear distant and indifferent to the countess. When Marcus sees countess again, he would treat her as a friend. The countess will think that he only wants friendship. This would make her confused. The next step is to make her feel jealous. So the more jealous she will be, the more closer she will be. So Marcus walked around Paris surrounded with beautiful girls. So countess would not only be jealous, she would think that lots of women desire Marcus. Ninon explained to him that a woman wants a man who is already wanted by many others. So it would be more satisfying to win his love. After making the countess confused and jealous, so that will be the best time to seduce her. Marcus must change his routine. He must move to become unpredictable. He must not come to the events where countess expects to see him. He must show up in salons he has never been in before, salons that the Countess visit often. It took weeks for Marcus to execute all these steps. Ninon took note of Marcus' progress. She learned everything from her spies. Countess now laughs at Marcus' jest. She listens closely when he tells her story. Ninon heard that the beautiful Countess is now curious about Marcus. She would ask questions about him. At social affairs, she would often stare at Marcus. Ninon was sure that Countess is already falling for Marcus. In few months, she would become his. But something wrong happened. Marcus visited the Countess in her home. Suddenly, he became desperate. He acted against Ninon's advice. Marcus took Countess' hand. He told her at once that he loves her. And now he expressed his love by telling that how much he loves her, this Countess. So the Countess was shocked. She politely excused herself. As the night went on, the beautiful girl avoided his glances. She did not tell good night and see him leave. When Marcus visited again, he was told that the Countess was away. After a few more visits, the Countess let him in, but everything has changed. Now she became more uncomfortable and awkward towards Marcus. That became the end of his love story. Most people say what they are feeling all the time. They tell their opinions openly. They reveal their intentions and plans at once. This is natural and easy to us. So limiting what you reveal and say takes effort. Moreover, many of us believe that honesty is the sign of good nature. It will win the hearts of everyone. But sometimes this is also not true. Honesty is actually a blunt instrument which bodies more than it cuts. When you are very honest, it makes you more predictable. People will not see it fit to fear or respect you. To become powerful, it is better to set honesty aside. Learn the art of hiding your true intentions. This will give you an advantage. People instantly believe what they hear and what they see. It is easy to deceive. Pretend that you have your eyes for something else. This will make you free to work on your real goal. In seduction, set up conflicting signals such as desires and indifference, and you are not only throw them off the scent, but you inflame their desire to possess you. This is what we learn from law number 2. So the law number 3, it says about always say less than necessary. So here we learn about a story. It was a custom in French court to discuss the state issues before presenting it to the king. The ministers and the nobles would debate and argue with each other for days. Then they would choose 2 representatives and they will send those representatives to the king. So each of them would explain one point of view to Louis XIV. So the king would decide on the best resolution of the state issues. The representatives finally came to him. They relayed the issues and shared to him the 2 best possible tactics. Louis XIV just listens. His face reveals nothing. When they are done talking, he would just say, "I shall see." Then he would already take his leave. Louis XIV will never talk on the subject again. The courtmen would only know his decisions after a few weeks. That is when Louis XIV has already acted on the state issue. By being silent, no one knows what he is thinking. No one can predict his next move. His silence also caused the men around him to just talk. Instead of knowing his thoughts, they would end up revealing their own selves. Later on, Louis XIV will use that information against them. As a result, Louis XIV became powerful and feared. He can take anyone off balance. He knows what makes them tick. Silence became Louis XIV's strongest defense. Limiting your words will not only make you powerful, it will also prevent you from making mistakes. When you don't think first before saying, there is something you get to tell something wrong or foolish. It can also cause you danger. I will give you another story on this. In the year 1825, there was a rebellion in Russia. Nicholas I was newly crowned as new Tsar. But the liberals wanted change. They wanted Russia to become a modern country. They wanted its economy and government to keep up with the European countries. Nicholas I ultimately crushed this rebellion in your uprising. He ordered the rebellion leader, Conrad Rabelais, to be hanged and executed. Rabelais stood on the platform with a rope upon his neck. So the door at his feet opened, but instead of choking, Rabelais' rope broke off. He fell to the ground. At times like this, the people think that it was the will of the heavens. Usually, the man to be hanged will be given a pardon. Rabelais stood up. He shouted in front of the crowd, "You see, in Russia, they don't know how to do anything properly, not even how to make a rope." The messenger quickly went to the Tsar to tell him what happened. Nicholas I was disappointed that Rabelais' hanging failed, but he went on to sign his pardon papers. Before doing so, he asked the messenger, "Did Rabelais say anything after this miracle?" To which the messenger answered, "Sir, he said that in Russia they don't even know how to make a rope." Nicholas I then tore the pardon papers. He commanded, "In that case, let us prove the contrary." That very next morning, Rabelais was brought to the gallows again. Unfortunately for him, the rope did not break anymore. Once you have said something, you can never take back your words. Be careful of what you say. You might offend other people. You might say words that can be harmful to others. As the saying goes, less talk, less mistakes. Now come to the fourth law. Never outshine the master. We have all heard about Galileo Galilei. He was an Italian scientist. In the beginning of 1600, he had a problem. He had become very dependent on the rulers for funding his research. Galileo dedicated his discoveries and invention to the rulers. It was a norm for the scientists of the Renaissance period. When he invented the military compass, he brought it to the Duke of Gonzaga. He wrote a book on how to use that compass. Galileo gave that book to the Medici family. Both the Duke and the Medici were impressed. They gave him more students. However, no matter the greatness of his discovery, the rulers always pay him by gift, not by cash. So this led to Galileo being always dependent on them. In order to live, he always had to win their favors. So in 1610, Galileo discovered the Jupiter moons. He thought of a new strategy. He used to divide his discovery for each of his patrons. A telescope for a ruler, a book for another, etc. etc. So this time, Galileo decided to focus on the Medici. So he solely dedicated the Jupiter moons to them. It is a brilliant tactic, since Jupiter has always been a symbol of the Medici family. Cosimo I, the founder of the Medici, hailed Jupiter as the most powerful god. In Greek mythology, Jupiter is known as Zeus. So Cosimo I saw Jupiter as a perfect symbol of the power of the Medici dynasty. He founded Medici in 1540. Galileo announced that he discovered the Jupiter moons on the coronation day of Cosimo II. He honored the Medici in front of the court and the whole Italy. There are 4 Jupiter moons. Galileo proclaimed that the 4 moons symbolizes Cosimo II and his 3 brothers. So the 4 moons orbit around Jupiter just as 4 suns orbit the Medici founder Cosimo I. By doing so, Galileo showed Italy that the heavens blessed the Medici dynasty. So Galileo also has an emblem made for them. The emblem pictured the god Jupiter in the skies and the 4 stars around him. He offered it as a new symbol of Cosimo II. The efforts of Galileo paid off. That year, he was appointed by Cosimo II as the official mathematician and philosopher of the throne. Galileo was entitled with full salary because of his action he did not have to be dependent anymore on his patrons. He did not have to beg anymore for their favor. All masters want to be superior to their subjects. No subject must be more intelligent and brilliant than they are. The masters do not actually care about the inventions and the discoveries of science. All they are concerned about is their glory and the honor of their name. So by associating medicine with the heavenly bodies, Galileo gave them even more honor. So intelligent people like Galileo make masters insecure. Masters do not want to appear just as the financier. They wanted to be part of the inventions or the discoveries. They wanted to appear intelligent as well as powerful. So Galileo was right to give Medici all the glory. Galileo did not pose himself as more intelligent than the rulers. So they did not become insecure of him. Instead, he elevated the Medici's family in Italy. Galileo made the Medici name more powerful when he linked them to the heavenly bodies. He brought glory to his master and not to himself. By doing that, he was greatly rewarded. It is dangerous to be the reason of your master's insecurity. What you must do is to flatter your master, but make it discreet also. Make your master get all the credit. Do not make it appear that you are more brilliant than the master. It is better to act naive. Always ask for your master's advice. If you have a brilliant idea, make it appear that you got it from your master. So to gain power, it is better to disguise the strengths you possess. Let other people outshine you. Do not be the cause of their insecurity. When the time comes for you to shine, this will become your advantage. So with this, I want to conclude the whole summary, and the rest of the 44 laws you can go through in the book. So the conclusion that I wanted to portray out here, that there are only a few advices that you can apply in your daily life. They are not only useful, but they also give you the power. So you can use these laws to have a better relationship with others. Never outshine your master can also be interpreted as being grateful to people who help you. Use your enemies can also be understood as forgiving those who have offended you or giving people a second chance. Concealing your intentions may teach you to be humble and unassuming. Saying a few words will make you become a better person. You may not be a politician, but surely this book will help you to learn something. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Debleena, for the review and the narration. Thank you, audience, for listening to our podcast. If you find it informative, do share and visit innohealthmagazine.com for more book reviews as well as healthcare and innovation articles.